Guys, it's looking great. Wow, what a shot. What a great looking mallet head. Now, I just want to take a moment to congratulate you on getting this far. But we're not done yet, so let's keep going. The next step, you're going to have some glasses, some ear muffs of some sort, not just ear pods, something to go over the top of your ears that is noise cancelling or deadening. Then you have to go through, of course, and tie up any long hair, remove any bangles or rings or jewelry, and of course, roll up any sleeves. That is the very first thing we need to do here. And then we need to talk about the router. So this is a router or a trimmer. This is a Makita trimmer, and it's pretty good. It's a sweet little machine. It's got an on-off switch at the top here. It comes down, has a nice flat surface. Now, if you want a smooth cut when you're routing, you got to keep your piece dead up against this. Otherwise, you're going to get rocks and you have to file those out later or go over it again with a router at a deeper set level. So it's all about keeping this dead flat and then bringing it up to here. Now, one thing you'll notice is that because of that ball bearing there, this can't go any deeper than what that ball bearing allows, which means as long as you've got a bit with a ball bearing on the end, you're going to be fine. It's going to come in here, stop there, and you're going to be a-okay there. And then we're going to simply trace around this top edge here and this edge here. We're not going to do this top edge here, and the bottom edges along there. Just the ends we're going to do, because it creates a very nice aesthetic, but also removes the sharpness of the corners, which means if you're ever malleting a piece of timber to lock it into place, you're not going to damage your piece of timber. So let's go ahead and lock this in our vise. Now, when we're locking this in our vise, you want to make sure that's not going to move anywhere. From there, we want to have all our safety equipment on. The Makita sign is facing outwards, the switch is outwards, so that I can lean over and watch my cut as I come through. I can come in from this direction here and watch that cut coming through here. I really like to watch my cut because it just ensures that I know what's going on. That's why we've got these safety spectacles. Then we're going to go from one side, I'm going to trace it from left to right, and then follow the whole way around in a giant circle, or square for that matter. Let's get into it. Now, before we can even begin, it's very, very, very important to note that you never start the router up against your piece. It's going to throw the router off and damage your piece. I always like to have my router base resting on my piece, but my router bit not touching my piece. Then I come through, I turn this on, and then we can go for it. Now, once you've gone ahead and finished routing that top section, wait for your router to fully stop spinning before placing it on the bench and continuing on the next side. So we've got that sorted and done. Now, it's looking great, but we've got a little bit of fur on the edges, and we've also got a little bit of burning, which are these dark patches up near some of the corners. Now, we don't want to leave that on there, so I'm going to go through and pull out my file for this. Now, we're going to use the file first, instead of coming through and just using sandpaper, because we need to use the file again in a moment, and this is going to be a nice place to start. Lock that in your vise once again, and I'm going to pull out my nice file here. From here, let's go ahead and let's just get down to eye level with it. Set this to that 45-degree angle, and then just we've got a mallet head looking pretty schmick, guys, but these edges along here are all super tight, and that's not very nice. So we're just going to come through with some 180 grit sandpaper and just break the edge. And it's effectively just giving all of the edges the lightest round over. Now, the whole point of this is to make sure that we don't chip our piece later and that it's more It's a nicer tactile experience when using your piece. So we've got that done now. You can go over your whole project with this. And now for your mallet head, that's when you want to go through and go over it with all the variety of different grits that you've got, because you really want to make sure that your mallet head is schmick and ready to go. Once you've got all of that sorted and it's sanded down to a very nice 180 all over, let's keep going and let's make sure our handle is going to fit correctly. Now, your handle should fit better one way than the other. Ideally it won't, but it's highly likely that it will. And that's because nothing's ever perfect. So I come through and I'm looking at this, and from here, this looks pretty freaking good. Like if I come back over here under here, as you can see, it's looking like a pretty clean job there, except the mallet head is sticking out too far. Now, before you suggest just go cut it off, instead, I'm just gonna take it out of here. Just gonna take it out of there. I'm going to grab my trusty plane and I'm going to get planing. I've just taken 2 passes off there. That's purely just to see how it's going to fit back in. And as you can see, that is pretty perfect to that 40mm line right there. Now we've got that done. We haven't finished with this just yet though. We want to come through, we want to add a handle. So whilst we've got this here, let's go ahead, grab our piece and just grab the handle and feel like where you're likely to be grabbing it top and bottom, giving yourself a little bit of space above and below so that when you're grabbing this, it's not overly, or it's perfectly where it needs to be. And we're going to come through and we're going to mark these up using a ruler. I've got my metal rule here and I'm just going to measure up to this one here, and that is sitting at 150. We're going to shift that to 150mm. So 150, I'm going to do that on the other side as well, from the base out to 150. Same on the other ends as well. Now from that, we're just going to get our square and we can draw this line just coming across that top edge there. 150mm, it should line up, mine does, and a 150mm over here. Then we're back to measuring the bottom one, which was, I'm going to do that one at 25mm. So it's just off 25mm, but since I moved the other one down a little bit smaller, I'm going to do the same here. 25mm, both sides there. I'm going to grab my square once again. Line that up. And set that up like so. Now, the reason I haven't bothered connecting the lines across here is because I actually don't need them. When we route this through, we're going to come through and route just along this edge just here and there and there.